Chapter 6, Crabby Abby. The next morning, Kirk hurried from the cloakroom and stuck a big piece of paper on my cage. It almost blocked my view of Og, which was not a bad thing. Once the other students settled into their seats, they started giggling and pointing, led by Gil, of course. Miss Brisbane looked puzzled until she glanced over at my cage. The sign read, "Help! I'm being held prisoner in room 26. "And who's responsible for this?" As if I didn't know, she asked. Kirk rose and took a bow as everyone applauded. I joined in, though I was the only one who knew I could never be a prisoner with my lock that doesn't lock. "Let's all sit down now," said Miss Brisbane, "and get back to the poetry." Somebody made a very, very rude noise, and Miss Brisbane did not like that one little bit. "I heard that, Kirk, and I don't ever want to hear it again." During the rest of the week, we heard a lot more animal poems. Most of them were about frogs. One was about a dog, Miranda's. Saya wrote about a beautiful bird called a dove. Dove rhymes with love. Nobody wrote about hamsters. Aldo didn't mention City College again, and Tabitha still didn't talk to anyone except for Smiley. I was looking forward to a change of scenery by the end of the week. A relaxing getaway to one of my classmates' cozy homes, one with plenty of heat and no frogs. On Friday, Miss Brisbane said, "I can't remember who asked me about taking Humphrey home this weekend." Miranda's hand shot up. "Yes, Miranda, I got a note from your father. That will be fine." I let out a little yeek. I don't think anyone heard me. Everyone knows that I have a special place in my hamster heart for Miranda. After all, her name is Golden, and I'm a golden hamster. We both have lovely golden hair, but I have a terrible fear of her dog, Clem. I barely escaped a terrible fate the last time I went home with her, but could I do it again? Then it hit me. Wait a second. Did you say father? I squealed, because when I went home with Miranda, before there was only her mom, and the dog, of course, and Fanny the fish. Miss Brisbane chuckled. "I guess Humphrey approves." I puzzled over this all afternoon. Sure enough, at the end of the day, a tall man called Mr. Golden arrived to pick up his daughter. At least I wouldn't be riding the bus with Marty Bean. That was a break. Miranda, thoughtful as ever, threw a warm blanket over my cage as they carried me out. Miss Brisbane picked up Og's cage. "I thought you said that Og could stay here on the weekends," said Miranda. Miss Brisbane chuckled. It's a surprise for my husband. He's always enjoys Humphrey, so I thought that he'd get a kick out of having Og over for the weekend." I felt cold, and we were still inside. I thought that the Brisbanes were my best friends of all. Were they ready to replace me with a frog? Once we were in the car, I didn't have time to worry about the Brisbanes. I was too worried about facing Clem again. I could practically see his sloppy tongue and his drippy nose and smell his bad breath waiting for me in Miranda's apartment. What a shock it was when the car pulled up in front of a house, not an apartment building. "Here we are, Humphrey," Miranda announced. "You've seen my mom's place, but this weekend we're staying at my dad's place." A nice lady that Miranda called Amy met us at the door. "Hi, honey," said Mr. Golden, kissing Amy on the cheek. "Meet Humphrey the hamster." "Cute," Amy replied. "I think he should stay in the girls' room." "What about the living room?" asked Miranda, "or the dining room table?" "I think he'd get in the way," Mr. Golden said. "Let's go to your room." Miranda's room in the apartment had a bed, a desk, a fish tank, and stars on the ceiling. Her room in this house had 2 beds, a dresser, a desk, and no stars. Everything in this room was pink, from the walls to the bedspread to the carpet on the floor. A girl about Miranda's age was sprawled out on the bed, reading a magazine. "What's that?" she asked in an unpleasant voice. "Humphrey, our class hamster," Miranda explained. "Well, he's not staying in my room," the girl stated firmly. "It's Miranda's room, too, Abby," Amy said as she came through the door behind us to put Humphrey down. "Put Humphrey on the desk." Miranda thoughtfully opened my cage to straighten out my ladder and my water bottle, which had slid around during the ride home. "Mom, I have to do homework on that desk," said Abby, sitting up. "Huh?" Amy was Abby's mom, and she was married to Miranda's dad. Things were quite confusing. "Okay, we'll put his cage on the floor," said Amy. I heard a baby crying in another room. "I've got to go see what Ben wants," she said. Mr. Golden followed her, and Abby got up to close the door. "He stays on your side of the room," Abby told Miranda. "And don't forget, no crossing the line." Abby took her foot and dragged it in a straight line across the middle of the floor on the pink carpet. "No crossing the line ever," Miranda sighed. "I know. You tell me every time I'm here." "Sometimes you forget. And don't touch anything of mine." "I never do," Miranda countered. "You used my barrette last time," said Abby. "Well, it was a mistake. It looks exactly like mine." Good for Miranda for standing up for herself. "I didn't complain when you borrowed my book without asking." Abby plopped back on the bed again and thumbed through her magazine. "Just don't cross the line," she muttered. I hope that I hopped on my wheel for a spin. Sometimes it cheers people up to watch me spinning. Abby was not one of those people. She glared at me. "Don't tell me it makes noise," she said nastily. "Can't you stop it?" "Humphrey is not an it. He's a he," said Miranda. I love that girl. "You can read in the living room," she suggested. "I was here first." Abby suddenly slammed her magazine down and stood up. "Okay, anything to get away from you." After she left, Miranda leaned down close to my cage. "I was hoping that she'd like you, Humphrey. She sure doesn't like me. It's not my fault my dad married her mom. It's not my fault that she has to share a room with me every other weekend," she sighed. "I've tried to be friends with her, but it's no use. She's a wicked stepsister, just like Cinderella." Miranda looked. Here's what I found. Miranda looked sad, sad, sad. So I leaped up on my ladder and hung from it by one paw to cheer her up. She smiled, so I leaped onto my tree and began swinging from branch to branch like a Tarzan guy that I saw on TV, and that made Miranda laugh. Abby returned with a sour expression on her face. I must have looked that way the day somebody in room 26, I'm still trying to figure out who, slipped me a slice of lemon. "Mom wants us to help fix dinner. She's got to feed the baby." She disappeared as quick as she appeared. "See you, Humphrey," Miranda whispered. "And remember, don't cross the line." After she left, I squinted my eyes, but I couldn't see a line anywhere. All I could see was a sea of pink, so much pink that I felt a little ill. Later that night, Miranda took her bath. I was alone with Abby. I decided to try to be friendly. "Nice room you got," I squeaked politely. Abby turned towards me and frowned. "Were you squeaking at me?" And she shook her head. "This is the last straw. First I have a room all to myself. Then Mom marries him, and pretty soon I have a stepsister taking half my room and a new baby brother crying all the time. And nobody knows I even exist. I'm supposed to be happy about this whole thing when it wasn't even my idea. And now they've moved in a guinea pig." That wasn't a huge insult because guinea pigs are cute and furry like me, only not quite as cute. Anyways, I could see Abby's point. I wasn't happy about Og moving into room 26, and it sure wasn't my idea. The difference was Miranda is actually nice, and Og is, well, Og. Miranda returned, and the two girls settled into their respective beds. "Night, Humphrey," Miranda said to me. Neither girl said a word to one another. I had a long night ahead of me, and since I'm nocturnal and I do most of my sleeping during the day, I had a lot of time to think. What Abby had told me helped me understand why she was so crabby with Miranda. If only I'd studied psychology like Natalie, maybe I could get inside her head and figure out how to make her like Miranda as much as I did. The next morning, Miranda cleaned my cage while Abby lounged on the bed, writing in her diary. "What are you doing, anyways?" she asked Miranda. "Taking out the old bedding and putting in new, changing the water, stuff like that." Abby slammed her diary shut. "It doesn't, go to the bathroom in there, does it?" "Well, sure." Abby leaped off her bed and pointed to the door. "That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. Get out of my room right now." I figured out a lot about humans, but I still don't know why my little potty corner is always such a big deal to them. I'm quite tidy. Miranda didn't budge. "He's on my side of the room." I was all for Miranda. On the other paw, I could see that Abby had been through a lot of change in such a short time. It's not easy getting a new roommate. I've learned that the hard way. I also knew that a good friend of Miranda's can be. Friends help friends, so I figured it was time that I did something about it. I had a plan using reverse psychology. Since Miranda had no luck getting Abby to like her on her own, my plan would make them not like each other even more, if that was even possible. Okay, it didn't make a lot of sense, but when Natalie used reverse psychology, it worked really, really well. I had a chance to set my plan in motion short time later when Mr. Golden announced that the whole family was going to the museum. Do we all have to go?" asked Abby. "Yes, all of us. We're a family, said her mom. Abby wrinkled up her nose. "Even the baby?" "We'll bring the stroller," said Miranda's dad. "He'll like it." Despite her grumbling, Abby joined the rest of the family, and I soon had the whole house to myself. My plan would take speed, strength, courage, and lots of time. It would be well worth it, though, if it worked. Once I was sure that they were gone, I opened the lock that doesn't lock, and I hurried over to Abby's bed. I'd been studying it all morning, and I thought that if I grabbed on, I could climb up to the bedspread, paw over paw, like a rope. I was huffing and puffing, and by the time I reached the top, but I made it. Sitting on top of the bedspread was the pink and purple striped pen Abby used to write in her diary. I gave it a big push, and it rolled off the bed onto the floor. After that, I scrambled over to Abby's nightstand. There, I found her pink bracelet with Abby spelled out in purple and white beads. I pushed that down onto the floor. The next part of my mission was fun. I grabbed the edge of the bedspread and slid down, down, down really fast. It was far from finished. Next, I climbed all the way up Miranda's bedspread to get to her gold ring with the pink stone. When I pushed it onto the floor, along with the red loopy thing she sometimes used to pull her hair back, you don't expect a hamster guy to know what that thing's called. It was halfway to my goal, and the hardest part of my plan was yet to come. All morning, I'd had my eye on that big ball of string on the desk. A long piece of string hung down almost to the floor. I grabbed it and I pulled as hard as I could. More and more string unrolled and fell into the floor. I chewed it off and set to work. looping the string around the pin and the bracelet, then holding the string with my teeth. Sorry, I lost my place. I climbed up onto Miranda's bedspread again. Whew. Miss Brisbane says exercise is good for you, but that was work. Once I was in the bed, I tugged on the string and pulled up the pin and the bracelet. Believe me, for a small hamster, those two items are very heavy. I carefully laid them both out on Miranda's pillow where she could see them. I tried, as tired as I was, there was no time to rest. I slid down to the floor and looped the string around Miranda's ring and her hair holder and pulled them up onto Abby's bed, laying them on her pillow. I'm happy to say that those two items were not as heavy as the others. When the girls came back, Miranda would find Abby's belongings on her pillow, and Abby would find Miranda's belongings on hers. I scurried back down to my cozy cage and closed the door behind me. I wanted to be safe when the fireworks began. Little friends may prove to be great friends. And chapter 7 will be coming up next. I hope you guys enjoyed the story today, and I look forward to hearing chapter 7 tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.